Hey guys, this is Erica, the Love Coach.
And this is Leash, the Chakra Queen. And you are tuned in to the Let It Go Sis Podcast. Let it go, sis!
Hey guys, you are listening to the Let It Go Sis Podcast. I'm your host, Erica, the Love Coach, and
Leash, the Chakra Queen.
And today we are talking about self-sabotaging, people-pleasing. But first, we are going to start off with what are some of the craziest things we've done in our relationships? Alicia, would you like to go first this time?
I guess so. Okay. Let me think. I haven't been crazy in a while.
That's a good thing.
It is, right? Okay. I think I have like two stories. So my first story was probably my most recent relationship. This was about 2 years ago. We basically had an argument, and he was giving me the silent treatment, which I hate. That drives me crazy.
You and me both.
So pretty much I was annoyed with him, so I just kind of wanted to spend some day with my friends or whatever. So randomly I was at work, and I had a new coworker, and I asked another one of my coworkers if she wanted to chill, but she basically said she couldn't, and then randomly was like, "Oh, this person wants to come," and she turns around and she was like, "I'm down." So I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, mind you, we've never spoken before." It was so weird. So basically, we wound up coming to my house. We got drunk, me, her, and another one of our friends. And I guess now that I'm drunk, I started feeling a way about my boyfriend not speaking to me. So then I was kind of like, "Do you mind driving me to my boyfriend's house?" And she's like, "Yeah, no problem."
So you were together at the time this time?
Yeah, we were together. Yeah. So she drives me to his house, and now I'm really drunk. And my other friend told her, he was like, "I don't think this is a good idea." Like, he saw it in me. He was like, "Leash is upset." So we go to the house, and I called him. I said, "I'm coming over there." He's like, "Don't come." And I'm like, "I'm coming." So when I got there, he was in his car. So I was trying to open the car doors, and he wouldn't open the doors. So I got so upset. I started banging on his doors, banging on his windows, like, "Open the effing door," in front of his mother's house, just acting crazy.
Acting a whole fool.
And basically, it was just so weird because this is literally the first time I had ever chilled with this coworker. And now I'm over here acting crazy at my boyfriend's house. It was really crazy.
Nice first impression, huh?
So basically what wound up happening, since he wouldn't open the car door, I looked across the street and I saw a traffic cone. So I picked up the traffic cone and I was trying to beat his windshield open. I was trying to
bust the windows out his car.
I was trying.
Okay, Jasmine Sullivan.
Unfortunately, it did not work.
We're happy because I didn't want to bail you out of jail.
That would have been a lot of money too to pay for that windshield. But what I did do was I did break the mirror and the antenna off the back of his car. And my friends basically, well, she's my friend now. They were trying to get me back in the car. I kept jumping out of the car. It was really crazy. And I remember at the end of the night, when I got home, I'm like, "Oh my God, my coworker is never going to talk to me again." And I have to walk into work she saw me acting crazy last night, the first time we ever chilled. So I was just like, this is going to be crazy. But it's so funny because that same day, she was just like, "Oh, girl, I've been there before." So it's so funny. Me and her are really good friends now. And after work, I have found out that my boyfriend at the time stole my computer. He came to my house and stole my computer and told me he was going to hold my computer from me until I paid for his mirror and his antenna.
What kind of computer was it?
It was my Max's.
He stole the Apple?
He stole my Apple, my Max's. He came to my house while I wasn't there. And obviously he's my boyfriend, so, my parents or my brother aren't thinking anything at the time of him coming. He's always at my house when I'm not there.
Yeah.
So he just came in and he stole my shit.
I mean, you see how you both were toxic? It's These are the type of situations we attracted in the past. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that, I don't even think that was the most toxic. I think this was a relationship maybe 5 to 6 years ago. I don't even know. Time is flying at this point. But I actually put a tracker in my boyfriend's phone at that time. And was
this the same person?
No. This is the boyfriend before him, actually. I I put a tracker in his phone because I had caught him cheating a whole bunch of times. So I finally decided I'm gonna put this fucking tracker in his phone. I put the tracker in his phone, and I was catching him doing everything. Like, I literally saw him on POF. Like, I can see what he was like searching on the internet. Any pictures,
POF is a dating site, right? Or a dating app.
Yeah, I actually made a fake profile on POF, added him, and he was talking to me. And it's so crazy because literally we were in the car one day, and this is so funny. We were in the car one day, and I'm talking to him as the girl. And he's talking, whatever. And I was like, call me. I want to talk to you. And he's like, oh, I'm at the studio. And I'm looking at him like, you sitting right next to me, you liar.
He was with you when he was with
me talking to the girl.
Trifling.
Basically, when we got to his house this day, this is the day I actually revealed that I had a tracker. Because I had it in his phone for like a week. I was really good. Like, I was really good at acting like I didn't know shit was going on. Like, I had it in his phone for like a week. And he was just talking to all these women. And, you know...
How did you feel when you seen those messages?
I was hurt. Like, like, because the crazy part about it is that we had already gotten into it about, like, before I put the tracker in his phone, we got into it about me finding out something. So what made me upset was you did this whole thing where you cried, oh my God, I'm going to do better. I love you. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. I'm never going to do it again. You cried in front of me like, you actor. Like, and then I put a tracker in your phone and you were still doing the same thing with multiple women. Yeah. It was just kind of like, you didn't change at all. What was all of that like? So basically what happened with that was, you know, I saw all the women. So I made a POF because I had told him to delete POF and he didn't. And I made a profile and he was talking to me. And we went to his house and I remember being like, yo, I really want to talk to you. What's up? Call me when you leave the studio. So he says to me in real life, he's like, oh, Alicia, I got to go get something out the car. And that's when I lost it because I knew he was going to call her. Like, you're with me and you're about to go call this girl.
Well, that call you.
Yeah, and then basically I lost it. I was just kind of like, you idiot, you've been talking to me, you know, going crazy. We had this whole big fight. What was crazy about that was that I saw text messages. Like, there was a point where I started telling him, because I think I started telling him a little bit, like, I knew stuff was going on. And he was saying to his friends, like, yo, she just be knowing stuff. And I could remember, I could see his text messages. And his friends was like, yo, you love that shit. And he's just laughing. And it was just like, yo, he really loves making me crazy.
Toxic.
Yeah,
see, that's what you call toxic love. Yep. It's like when you're in that stage of your life where you have so much trauma, toxic stuff is like, it's like we feed off of that. You ever hear someone say like, oh, this person loves drama? That's what it is. It's like subconsciously we like the toxic stuff and we don't even realize it.
Again, it's because that's what we're used to. And, it's crazy. So that was my 2 stories. I have a few stories, but those are probably like the craziest, like for me, you know, like where I felt like I was doing too much.
Yeah, I would have to say that me and you are not as crazy. We got to do an episode where we have girls call in and talk about the craziest things they've done because I feel like we have not done the stuff that I've heard other people do, like blowing up cars. No, they set it on fire. I do. I know someone who said they did that. So,
yo, I can't.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned the installing the tracking app on your ex's phone because I'm pretty sure you told me about that app.
I did tell you about it.
Alicia told me about that tracking app. She's like, girl, I got this app on so-and-so's phone and it, you know, I can see everything. I'm like, what? Now my crazy ass, I was like, yes, give it to me now. She told me what app it was and I put it on my boyfriend at the time's phone. And what I ended up finding was he was talking to a bunch of his exes. I remember one of the women actually, this is for a whole nother day, but his ex-girlfriend was actually pregnant with his child at the time. And I had a big issue with her. I was just like, I don't want you talking to her. If you're not taking her to the doctor, I don't want you speaking to her. And what ended up happening was he's like, I'm going to block her. You know, she's crazy. That's the same line they give everybody. She's crazy. We're all crazy.
Yep. We're all crazy. When they're the ones doing the bullshit.
Exactly. So, you know, he said, I'm not going to talk to her anymore. I'm going to block her. So when you told me about the tracking app, it, if I remember correctly, it tells you who they're calling, who they're texting. You can actually see the texts. I could see like what websites he was on. Sometimes it even told me where he was. So long story short, I actually seen that he was still talking to the woman that he told me he blocked and everything. And I would ask him, like, I never told him that it was on, that I had it on the phone, but I would say to him, like, oh, are you still talking to so-and-so? And he'd be like, no, of course not. I blocked her. But then I would check the app an hour later and he just was on the phone with her for like 45 minutes, you know? Then another time, I went to see him. I actually checked his phone, not through the app, but I looked in his phone. He was blowing up her phone crazy. I asked him again, have you spoken to her? No. I mean, this app, I mean, literally, I've seen everything, yes, you know? Everything. And it got to the point where, same thing like you said, he started to realize, like, why does she know that I'm talking? Because I'm like, you're lying. I know you still talk to her. Mm-hmm. And he just found it weird. And then he goes, Erica, you got something in my phone? And he ended up finding it. I don't know how, but I think he's seen it. He looked through his phone, his apps, and he found it. And it was this big thing. And I think he broke up with me that day. And I'm just like, I'm saying to myself, you broke up with me and you're lying and cheating? Like, how does that make sense, bro?
Oh my God. Toxic. Just like you said, toxic.
Exactly. And we ended up getting back together again, toxic, because it's like, why do we allow these things? I think my biggest thing is like, why do we let these guys take us out of character? Yeah. I mean, it's funny listening to the story now, but back then it's like the stress level we had when we had to deal with these dudes and do these crazy things. It's like, what? Why do we do that? But that's one of the situations. That app is crazy.
Yeah, because it's like I literally sat there and watched my boyfriend
lie
cheat on me for a week. Mm-hmm. It didn't say anything.
I don't remember how long I had it in his phone until he found out, but probably about the same because they figured it out after a while. But public service announcement, ladies, do not do this. All right, because I know we're talking about all this stuff, but it is not good.
Yeah, it's not.
If you're dealing with someone that you have to do this type of stuff, now I'm aware of that, but like back then I wasn't. If you have to do this type of stuff, then you shouldn't be together. Mm-hmm. If I can't trust my man that I got to put a tracking device in your phone, that's a problem. Like that's the biggest red flag right there. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah. But
Lord have mercy.
Right. Another situation, one time I was hanging out with Alicia and as usual, as per usual.
I feel like I'm in every story.
Me and Alicia was low key in a relationship, guys, because we were always together.
Yo, seriously.
We should have just been together. We'd have been better for each other.
We probably would have been toxic too.
Listen, our toxic friendship story is on another episode.
That's facts.
So another situation that happened was I was at Alicia's house. It was really late. I lived with my boyfriend at the time, but I forgot my key at home. So when I was out with her, I didn't realize it until I was leaving. Now it's probably like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And Alicia's like, I'm not trying to kick you out, but I'm going to sleep. You got to go. So I'm like, all right. So I realized I was missing my key. So I called my boyfriend. I'm like, are you home? You have to open the door for me. And he's like, no, I'm in Jersey. And Jersey is pretty much like an hour and change away from where we live. And I'm just like, when are you coming home? It's 12 o'clock at night. And he made up this whole story, how he's out with his brother and all this stuff. And I'm like, whatever. So I know Alicia wanted to go to sleep. So I left. I'm like, he should be back soon. He said he was on his way back home. So I go to the house and I just park my car in front of the house. And I'm like, okay, I'll just wait for him. So when I get in front of the house, I see that his car is outside. And I'm like, wait, he just said he was in Jersey and he wasn't going to be here right now. So I call him and I'm like, where are you? I didn't tell him that I seen his car outside. And he's like, I'm still in Jersey. I'm on the way back. And I'm like, okay, so why is your car in front of the house? I swear. Yeah, so he's like, Jersey, New York. So he's like, oh, my brother drove his car. So I was like, okay, I guess that's believable. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right. What ended up happening was I waited a little while longer and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I'm tired. I want to get in my bed. So I was like, you know what? Let me see if the window is open or something, because I know sometimes the window above our bed would be like kind of cracked open or whatever. So I'm going downstairs. Our bedroom was in the basement. So I'm going down the steps. And as you're going down the steps, the window's right there. So I walk past the window and I hear him talking. Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
I hear him talking and the first thing that pops in my head is, there is a bitch in the house, you know. So of course my crazy ass, I open the window, I bust through that and like I stuck my whole, I don't even know how I fit in that window, but I stuck my whole body inside the window. And I was like, who's in here?
Yo, I can imagine being him sitting there and just seeing your head pop in the window.
He was
like
sitting on the bed. So I was expecting to see a female when I stuck my head in there. There wasn't, but he was on the phone with a girl because I think he was on FaceTime. Either he was on FaceTime or he was on speaker, but I remember hearing a girl's voice. So he was definitely on the phone with a female, but till this day, I'm still confused as to why he lied and said he was in Jersey if he wasn't with a woman, but whatever the case may be. To me, that was crazy because I don't jump through windows. That my adrenaline was on 1,000, and I was ready to see a woman in there because I don't know what I would have did, but that was just something that was like, really, you had me sitting out here. You had your girlfriend sitting out here at 12 o'clock at night.
Like, you know, I don't have my key. I live with you. Like,
exactly.
You're not worried about where I'm going for the night to sleep. Like,
exactly. So that was just that was just something that was like, again, why am I with this person? The fact that I have to jump through my window to see what you're doing because I don't trust you is another red flag. One other situation that I remember, and this was, again, ladies, don't do this.
It's like disclaimer after disclaimer.
Right. Like, we do not promote this type of behavior. We just want to share our stories because some of them are relatable. Another time, what happened was me and my boyfriend got a phone plan together. Well, actually, I had the phone plan already. And I think he wanted a new phone, but his bill was like really expensive. So I was like, listen, I have an extra line on my plan. Like, come on my phone plan with me. And he was like, all right, cool. He comes on the plan with me. And, you know, in the beginning, the relationship was good and everything, the honeymoon phase as usual. But as the relationship went on, I started to, you know, suspect that he was cheating because he was always lying or saying like, oh, I fell asleep, or, you know, the usual lies that people make that we know are lies. That female intuition kicked in. So at that point, I didn't trust him anymore. So I started checking the phone bill. Now with my phone plan, like, I didn't have to wait for the bill to come in. I could actually on the app see like the calls like right away. So literally, like, if he made a call right now, like within like 10 minutes, I could see that he made a call 10 minutes ago. So the obsession was real. Like, I was literally watching his phone. Like, I was on the app every hour, like, whose number is this? And like, it was to the point where, and why I say this is crazy is because I would write the numbers down and call each and every one of, like, if he was on the phone for a certain amount of time with this person, I would call the number to see if it was a female that either picked up or, like, you know, if it was a female on the voicemail. But sometimes, you know, no one answered. So what I ended up doing was I would add the numbers onto my WhatsApp. Because those of you who have WhatsApp know that most people have like a profile picture on WhatsApp. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to find out if it's a female. So I would add their number on WhatsApp, and usually most of the time women always have a profile picture. So I would see that it was a woman, and I would contact them because I was crazy.
Yes.
I would, and it could have been a sister, a cousin. I didn't care. I was just like, I don't trust this man. I'm going to hit them up. So I would see that it was a female, and I would message them like, hey, how do you know so-and-so? That's my boyfriend. You know, we've been together for such and such amount of time. And it would always be a girl who'd be like, oh, I used to mess with him, or he just hit me up yesterday, or, you know, we just chilled. And I'm like, what? This was probably one of my worst relationships. I'm not going to lie to you, because it was actually my last toxic relationship I ever had. Like, that was kind of, I mean, I could go on about this, but I'm going to make it quick. That was my most toxic relationship. And that was the last time that I was like, I'm never going to allow someone to let me get out of character again.
You know, it's funny. That's the same thing with me with the traffic cone. That was the last time I got out of character too. And it's just like, well, the last relationship, because I wouldn't say the last out of character thing that happened with us. But it's just like, never again. I'm not being with anyone who is going to ignore me when I just want to communicate about why I'm upset and get me to a point where now I'm beating your car with a fucking traffic cone. Like,
exactly.
So,
or jumping through windows, or dating someone who makes you check their phone bill.
Putting apps in their phones. It's like, why are we doing all of these things? Like, obviously these people just aren't the people we need to be with at the time. So it is what it is.
Exactly.
Gotta end those situations. They're toxic, and that's just
right. And this is exactly why we wanted to do this podcast. It's kind of just to share our stories and show you what we went through so that you don't make the same mistakes if you haven't already.
Right. It's true.
Do you have any other crazy situations that happen, or?
I mean, there's other things.
We'll save that for another time. All right, so we're gonna jump into self-sabotaging. Self-sabotaging is basically you unconsciously ruining your relationships. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be a friendship that you self-sabotage. It could be a business relationship with like a business partner. It could be you sabotaging your relationships with your family. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. We've been through stuff like that with our friends and relationships.
Right. So for me, my self-sabotage, I would say like when I deal with people or men, so I'll do like relationship wise, I've had so much relationship trauma that even when a guy isn't trying to play me or isn't trying to cheat or do anything, you know, to make me run, what happens is the moment I feel like you're acting funny, block. Nope, you're not going to play me. I'm deading you first, you know. And then it's kind of just like, okay, well, why did you block me? Why did you do that? And it's just kind of like, well, because you were acting funny. Like I was acting funny because I fell asleep last night. Like, you know, what are you talking about? So I think what I would do to run or self-sabotage is I would always try to beat him to the punch. Like, I'm not going to let you play me. So I'm going to play you first, or I'm going to block you first, or whatever the case may be, not realizing that it backfires for me because now these people feel like they can't trust that I'll stick around because I'm popping in and out.
Right.
So I think that's a way that I recently actually learned that that's how I self-sabotage, you know, my relationships or situations that could have gotten to, you know, a more serious level by just not letting things unfold naturally or play out. And, you know, instead of being scared and reverting back to my old relationships where that did happen to me, you know, now I'm sabotaging myself by saying, well, you're going to do it just like the last person did it. So block.
Exactly.
So that's me personally. That's how I self-sabotage. Do you have like a way you self-sabotage?
I feel like in my relationships, I self-sabotage because of my trust issues, based on the fact that what I just told you guys, all the stuff that I've been through, I like really had a hard time trusting men. So I feel like I've sabotaged potential good relationships that I could have had with people by assuming that all men are just like my exes.
Right.
You know, like I remember one of the guys I dated recently, like I literally went into the relationship assuming the worst. I mean, it wasn't a relationship, but you know what I mean? Just talking to this person, I assumed the worst from the jump.
Right.
Like, oh, he's probably just like everyone else. He probably does this. He's probably
pretty much basically what I just said. The same thing. We assume the worst. Right.
Yep. Like we're scared of being hurt.
Right.
So we automatically think that everyone's out to hurt us. And that's not always the case, you know. Like you said, you just block people, and I do the same thing. I feel like I literally, like, the second a man shows me some type of like toxic trait, or I feel like he's talking to other women, I'm like, oh no, he's just like my ex, and that's when I'm like, I'm done with
like,
you.
You don't even give them the opportunity to show us
that they're different,
toxic, or they're that they're either different or they're a good guy or whatever, or that they really are doing this thing. We assume, and right from there, it's like, you know, you're bugging out or whatever the case is. So that is self-sabotage. And I guess one of the key reasons people self-sabotage is obviously trauma. You know? So, and that's, again, like we were talking about in business and friendships, like, you know, trauma from relationships and childhood trauma spill over into business relationships as well. You know, like I feel like recently I had, you know, a business relationship with someone that I felt like her romantic trauma or self-sabotage, you know, ended the business relationship because I feel like she couldn't differentiate the difference between having a business, you know, relationship with somebody and a romantic relationship. So when you have this type of trauma, you know, it spills over into many different parts of your life. So it's something that really needs to be healed, something that you really need to figure out because, you know, sabotaging a business relationship, that that's your career, you know?
That's your money.
That's your money, exactly.
I actually have a friend that self-sabotaged in more ways than one. Just like you said, you can sabotage in friendships or, you know, business relationships. In this situation, I feel like she was self-sabotaging her romantic relationship and her friendship because what happened was she actually had a really good man. He treated her good. He treated her kids good. But at the end of the day, she was constantly complaining like, oh, he doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. And I would try to explain to her, like, nobody's going to be perfect. You know, you have to fix yourself as well because, you know, there was times where I spoke to both of them and they both had their own issues. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you have to work together. And instead of her taking accountability, like, okay, this is where I go wrong and this is where he goes wrong, she just put the blame on him all the time. And I'm like, she basically lost a really good man. I know you talked about that in episode 1, where it's like, sometimes it is our fault.
Right.
And she never took accountability for that. So her relationship didn't work out. Right. But it poured over into her friendships because of all her trauma that she didn't heal. She not only messed up her relationship with her man, but her friends started to, you know, drift away from her because that trauma that she had, it was like she could never take accountability for anything.
Right. And then you call your friends and you're like, oh, and he did this. And you try to give your friend real advice. And then sometimes when they don't want to listen, it's just kind of like, all right, this is a strain on our friendship because you're calling me every week with some toxic story. And it's like, I spoke to you about this last week. Like,
exactly.
So it strains your friendships too as well.
Yep. Because then it's like, if you're not going to take my advice, then stop complaining to me. You know, you're sabotaging everything.
Right.
And it sucks, but, you know, you have to sometimes say, okay, maybe I'm the problem.
And it's true. The same thing, like you were saying, like within the friendship as well, because if you're somebody in a relationship that can't even take accountability, you know, every relationship you have with a person, whether it's romantic or in any way, you know, you're not going to take accountability in general.
Right.
So if I have an issue with you, the same way your man has an issue with you and he can't come to you and talk to you, how as your friend and I going to be able to come and talk to you? So yeah, it's definitely self-sabotage. Like it's basically not taking accountability for the issues and the trauma and the things that you've been through. Like there's no way for you to be in like a healthy relationship if you have all of this leftover trauma because all you're ever going to do is sabotage yourself.
Right. And I think that lack of communication is a big thing, a big part of self-sabotage because when you can't communicate with your partner or your friends or your business partners, you know, that relationship is not going to work out because you can't communicate properly without like being upset or having entitlement or not taking accountability. You have to be able to talk to these people about what is it that bothers you.
Exactly. And this goes back to that original, you know, topic we talked about with me with the traffic cone. That was my biggest issue in that relationship was that every time I wanted to communicate, you ignored me. You didn't talk to me for 3 days. So now I'm at your house with a traffic cone.
Exactly.
So it's like that was self-sabotage on his part. You know what I mean?
We also self-sabotage by staying in toxic relationships. It's not always just being in a relationship and ruining it, but it's like by staying in a situation where you're unhappy, that's self-sabotage as well because you're sabotaging your happiness.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, why do you want to stay with this person if you're not happy? You're constantly trying to do things to make them happy, and that actually goes into our other topic, people pleasing. It's like you're self-sabotaging by people pleasing for people who don't really care about you.
Right. And that's real because like if you're people pleasing in a relationship, how do you know that this person is genuinely with you because they love you? If you're doing like, oh, I'm going to pay all your bills or, you know, just because I need you to be with me, you know, because I can't, you know, fill my own voids with the things I need to make me happy. So I need you to make me happy. So I'm going to please you.
Exactly.
And it's self-sabotage because most of the time when you people please, they don't people please you back.
Right, because you wouldn't have to be a people pleaser. Like for the right persons, for someone who genuinely loves you, you wouldn't need to like please them to the extent where they're not doing anything for you in return because it would be equal. Right. That love would be equal give and take.
Exactly.
So I mean, when you're aware, you'll understand when someone's just doing stuff just because they need you. But like, I know when we were toxic back then, we didn't realize what we were doing or what other people were doing. We kind of were just like, oh, we're doing this for them because we love them. But it's like, what are they doing for you in return?
Exactly. Right. And you're doing it because you want them to feel something within you. So yeah, it's crazy. I don't think I was a people pleaser, but I can say I've had situations where someone tried to people please me, or to please, I don't want to say people please me, but somebody tried to please me by, you know, giving me money or just doing any and everything I wanted. And at the time I was just like, okay, like if you want to do these things for me, not realizing, you know, what I was actually doing was toxic or was like, you know, kind of effed up in a way. Like, you know, I shouldn't have been doing that. Knowing that the reason this person was doing these things for me is because they wanted more or a relationship with me. Right. And that's not what I wanted. You know, not to say I never said that to them, you know, I never communicated that. But at the same time, I feel like at that time I probably should have stopped it because, listen, I don't want this with you and I don't want you to do these things for me. It was a little selfish of me to take from someone because, you know, but see, you're taking accountability. And a lot of people don't do that. You see what you did in the past and you're like, I shouldn't have done that, you know, because it kind of sucks for people who do that in a way, because I've been the people pleaser. In my relationships, I was the one going out of my way because, like you said, I was trying to fill that void in my heart where I wanted love so bad because I didn't get the emotional love I wanted from my parents. So I would constantly try to buy people's love. Like I remember with a lot of my exes, I was constantly spoiling them. Like, I mean, I was paying their phone bill. Like one dude, like he would ask me like, oh, I'm late on the rent. I would give him his rent money thinking that that was going to make him love me more. And it didn't. It just made him like take advantage of me. Exactly. So people pleasing is a big problem when you can't see, does this person appreciate what you're doing for them, or are they just taking advantage of your kindness? And it's funny because I have a friend we actually spoke about this the other day, and she likes to go all out, you know, in relationships for anniversaries, birthdays, and stuff like that. And when they don't do it back, she's devastated. And it's just kind of like, you know, you would expect that somebody would go above and beyond the same way you do, but then, you know, we discussed it the other day, and she realized like, yo, I am people pleasing because I want you to fill me, you know what I'm saying? So, and then when you don't get filled, now you're devastated, now you're upset in your relationship. So there's definitely a lot of there's layers to, you know, self-sabotage. And definitely what you said, you know, you can do it while you're in a relationship, or you can self-sabotage before you even get into the relationship. So there's worst case scenarios. I think that's my biggest issue, is assuming the worst before I even start a relationship. Me too. Because I used to be so carefree where it was like, I trusted them from the jump. I was just like, oh, they could do no wrong. They're so perfect. I mean, this was in my own little dreamland. I was thinking of all this stuff. But once you get hurt so many times, it's hard to trust anybody, you know, even it's like guilty before, you know, what is it? It's supposed to be like innocent before proven guilty. Yeah. It's like, no, you're guilty. Automatically. Prove to me that you're not guilty. It's actually funny because in my last toxic relationship, the one I was just talking about where I was like on his phone, checking his phone bill and stuff, I remember when we first got together, like I was so happy. And, I was like posting really positive things on my page. I was known for the men ain't shit. Like I was the leader of the men ain't shit clique, because everyone was like, Erica, you're always bitter. You're always angry at men. Seriously. Like I remember when I was actually posting like happy relationship quotes on social media, my friends were like, oh, exactly. Men ain't shit no more. So it's like, this is what happens when you're in constant toxic relationships. You just have no hope for a good relationship. You kind of just give up on love. Yeah. So, yeah. But then when you get deeper into it and, you know, deeper into healing, which is other things we're going to get into too, you start to realize like, oh, shoot, it was me. Like, you know, not the whole thing isn't you, but, you know, you date on your vibration. So if you do play a part in those situations. Exactly. Like if I'm still needing to heal something inside of me, obviously I'm meeting men or women, you know, on the same level as me. This is why we're connecting. So it's a lot. But we'll get into that type of, you know, the healing journey later. Yeah. Because, Lord, are we not going through a journey, okay? Listen, I mean, honestly, me and Alicia were just talking the other day about how we're actually grateful for this crazy-ass journey that we've been on, because it has led to some really good things. And,
I feel like everything happens for a reason. We always talk about divine timing. You know, we meet people at the right time. Even if it was a toxic person, we met them to teach us something, you know?
Exactly. Yep, so everybody comes in your life for a reason. It's up to you to learn the lesson or break the cycle or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Take accountability. Yep.
So I feel like with this episode, like whatever you take from this, take what I feel like my advice to everyone is just pay attention to yourself, like what you're doing in your relationships, how you contribute to the issues or the problems so that you can stop it before it gets worse. Because, you know, our assumptions can really mess up something good sometimes. And don't be too much of a people pleaser. You know, make sure you pay attention to who truly appreciates what you do for them, because that's a big thing. I think that's what hurt me the most. I think you said it. You said something like, people expect the same from you, like you're people pleasing, so they expect you to treat them the same way you're treating them, and that's not how it always works. You know, if this person doesn't really care about you, they're not going to give you the same love you're giving to them. So just be careful with those type of things. Pay attention to how people treat you. You can always see people's true colors. We just don't want to see it.
Right.
Okay, guys, that was the end of episode 2.
Yes.
Make sure you tune in next week to episode 3. I know today was a little bit more serious than we were the first time, but I felt like someone needed to hear that message because we've all been in these type of situations. So everyone enjoy your day, and I hope to see you next week.
Okay, and don't forget to let
it go, sis. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys for tuning into the Let It Go Sis podcast. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Let It Go Sis Podcast and my personal page, Erica Christine.
And my personal page at Artiste Photography and Chakra Queen 222.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
Bye.
Bye.